what I was working on. Let me get rid of my marching ants. Marching ants. Whoops. Okay, cancel. Yeah, you got to get yourself out of the window that I was open on. So here, so this is, we were bringing in, this is a logo. This was once another kind of logo that was up here. So this is a style that I would like to utilize as far as making it unique to the organization that I want to use. And so what we were doing was simply getting the logo to be in spot and time. Let me just delete this. And up here is, you know, sometimes when you have a flat color, putting a slight drop shadow is really, lets it kind of pop out. But sometimes you want to have it flat. You know, that's a big design decision in regards to that. So that's important to know. And then what we were trying to do was, you know, like if you have a big change here, which is, you know, changing the background, there's really not a lot of ways to be able to easily take this away. So in other words, if I wanted blue to be down here or dark blue, it's very difficult because this color is in the photographs. So what I was trying to do is to isolate the photographs like this and pretty much copy and paste it. So I would go copy, and then at a later time, I would paste it. And I gotta be on the right layer up here. So copy, so I'm copying this. And then I can come up here to this layer and come up here to adjust image. And you can actually replace colors. So one thing you could do is take the saturation and what I want to do is, see, this is black and white, so the saturation is not going to work. So the only way to try to get this to be changed is to go to replace color. And in replace color, you can do it by selection. So let me, the only problem is you can see I can't zoom in, so that doesn't really help me. So when you have these eyedroppers, it means to add color or subtract color. So I'm going to do it with image, and I'm going to choose that, and then choose a different color. Let's just choose red. And be able to get in there and change that. So let me zoom in and do image, adjust that. So you see how I'm picking up the colors. Let's do here again. I'm picking up the result of the color, adding down here. And it's not working the way I want to work it on it. Hold on, let's see here. Let's just choose, if I choose this color, there we go. So, you know, it's not going to work at all with black and gray. It's because you see how I picked it up when I clicked this photographs, right? So this will not work with black and gray because there's no color in black and gray. So on here, this has color, and you see I can go through the different colors, and that will actually replace the color. But that's because there is color. When you have something like this, it's much more difficult on that. So that's why it's not, the replace color is not going to pick up blacks and grays. So at this point, the only way I can do this is if I use the magic wand tool and click this. So you see I'm getting a lot of it right now. So I could bring down on the select tool, bring it down to 5. I bet it's probably 1. If I bring it to 1, it probably will work. And then you can hit delete. But the problem is you can see it has all the other interiors that it doesn't go into. So that's why often sometimes you just have to redo your type, and that's why we use Latin instead of worrying about what language it is. So sometimes it's easier to rebuild something than to take away, and that's where you're trying to edit it. So so this is where the other page that I had was this one. We bring this down. So I like this one as well. So I'll bring this in, and again, I'm going to scale this. Do not use a shift key. And I'm going to bring this down so that it floats on here. And that's how we're beginning to construct. So this is, I think, Rebecca, you kind of did this when you were doing your layout. And so then here I can get rid of this. And again, turn this off and then go back to this and get rid of this. And let me get this picture out of our way. So what we were talking about before was to utilizing web tools. So now obviously I probably will want white all the way around. So let me just do that on this layer. And now I'm going to begin to build upon the new layout. And this is how you really can change up your web design, by mix and matching, as they say. So I would probably find ways to fill this up, probably correct this down here. But as you can see, you're working always with your layers. So when web design is utilized in the industry, the Photoshop person, the graphic design person, the digital imaging person, or the digital media person, they're going to create a layout with the close almost to somewhat absolute detail. They don't have the language there, that's why they put Latin, but as far as columns and pictures and probably words from navigational menus, but a lot of this would be all Latin. You often have to extract the multiple pictures and give it to yourself, which may be programming it and putting it in a content management system like WordPress, or handing it over to a programmer. So that was the one thing that is important to know, is that you have to break down the pictorial elements for the programmer. And there is a web tool in Photoshop that lets you do this. And that tool is what we call, it's under the crop tool, because it actually is a cropping tool. It's a slice tool. So this slice tool lets you extract the composite into multiple pictures so that you can give them to the programmer so they can adjust them and align them, matching your Photoshop layout. So you'll be giving them literally 2 formats to the programmer. Or if you're programming yourself in a content management system such as WordPress.org, you would give them photographs separate. You would give them background tiles, patterns, and we'll go over the pattern again. You would also give them the whole Photoshop layout. So they have the whole layout, which is all together, and then that's what they match. And then they have all the multiple files that you've given them that are from the layout, so that they know what it should look like, and then you've given it for them to be able to program. So there's a tool in Photoshop that lets you do this. And so this is a very important tool, and this tool is right under the crop tool here. Let me bring this over to us. So the slice tool creates the slice, and the slice tool selects the slice, and you could actually give it a name. So in actuality, you can actually create an interactive page utilizing Photoshop. And I'll show you how to do that in some cases that some people do simulate. So for instance, right down here, let's take a, before we get to the slice tool, I'm going to show you. So here we have multiple pictures. Now these multiple pictures probably are big somewhere else, on some other event page or service page or whatever it may be. But you need to also deliver to them the scale and the position, because there are big decisions about how wide this is, you know, and what goes first and what goes second. So one of the tools that's very variable in Photoshop is how to create thumbnails quickly. Because if you have like 50 thumbnails, you're working for a museum and you're archiving a catalog, and you need thumbnails for pictures. This is a tool that you can use that can quickly give you thumbnails. So the one is right up here. It's the Marquee Tool. And as you notice, style, you can make it a fixed size. So that means I could come up here and I could make it become, now this would probably be too big, but let's see, 50 by 50. And so when I come down here, you see everywhere I click, that fixed size is going to pop up. So let's go to 100. And Control D. So we're almost there. And so, you know, I could keep ballparking this, but I also could do a window info right here, window info. And I could, so right here, width and height, I could come up here. Oh, let me get out of fixed. Let's do normal. And you see the width and height is changing. So it's about 118 by 118. It is a square. So now I can come up here to my marquee again, go to fix, and go to 118. Whoops. Got a tab. And then come back. And you see now it is a perfect crop. So then if I needed to crop something, now do remember that often large photographs don't look that great scaled down to 100. So you're cropping just an area that represents the whole. So, you know, and I think Rebecca, the last time you were with us, I was scaling that path, right? And what I found, and you'll see it in the tutorial, what I found is that when I did that example, and this is what I learned, I'm letting you know, this is something that I learned by demonstrating a procedure, is that when I did a place embedded, it corrupted the edges of the Illustrator file. But when I did a file open, drag and drop the picture into the layout, it sustained and maintained the clean edges that are from Illustrator. So that scaling kind of corrupted based on the place embedded, because it forced itself to fit into the size when it was actually big, and I manually scaled it down, and it kept the edge. So on here, that's the same thing. Sometimes photographs scaled to a thumbnail do not look good. So it's better to just crop a really interesting area. So like for instance, I'm going to zoom in to his face. I'm going to take my marquee, and right there, I would crop that. And the way to crop it would be to do up to select, inverse, be on the right layer, and click. And that's how you crop with, you know, inversing your thumbnails with your marquee. So that is just for thumbnails. The other one, which is the slice tool, that one is if you needed to, like if I needed to export this photograph, maybe this was a photograph that was a whole photo of a child's head and shoulders, and I cropped it for the web page. I need to give the programmer or whoever's doing the HTML and the CSS, I need to give them this image. So I normally would have this type turned off, right? The type would be completely turned off. Now we don't need to do this because I'm just showing you more tools in Photoshop so that, you know, I'm not asking you to use this tool, but I want you to be sure you know about it because it's in Photoshop. So if I did this layout, this would obviously be on a layer, and I would use my slice tool like this. So the slice tool is literally an X-Acto knife as a cursor. And it's a good idea to zoom in, but you got to move it over here. So, because you want to get it right on the edge. And then you mouse down, and it is moving over for me. And then it comes down here. And now that is a slice tool. And as you can see here, oh, it doesn't get bigger. There's a number here. And let me zoom out. There are slices all the way around, as you can see. They're tagged here, tagged there, and so forth. So what happens is you can slice this entire parameter out, and it will export it out to images, and that's what I'm going to show you next. So the one we're going to come in here because this did not snap to the bottom. So that tool is the select tool. And so I can actually edit that slice right like this. And you can actually use the arrows on the keyboard to do little things that your hand cannot do. So now I have this, and if I double click with the select tool, watch what happens next. I now have the image information window pop up in Photoshop, and I now can give this a file name that is going to go into the web folder. And remember, all file names of documents on the web are actually searchable. So sometimes we can use you know, like maybe the logo that would be maybe green piece home page 2, and then there may be another photo, green piece home page 1, and I would know that all those photos go on the home page. So file names are very important, but you can actually put a link here, and Photoshop will write the code for you. The other thing that's very important is you can write down the pixel dimension of the actual photo for the programmer. That's very helpful because they're going to make code where they need to make a placeholder, and in that placeholder, if they have the actual pixel number of the image, you can give it to them. So, you know, I don't know this size of this slice that I just did, but if you double click it, right here will give you the pixel dimension of that photo. And so then I will say, okay. So the point of this is why Photoshop is used so much in web design, is it's a utility tool besides just a designing tool. So now so I could come up here and slice. So say I want this symbol here. I'll take my slice, I'll come up here, use the slice tool, not the slice select tool. And again, it's always good to zoom in. And then I am going to pick it up like this, mouse down. And you see it snaps right to that. And then again, double click. And this will be volunteer. And I might even do something like this, home page volunteer, so that maybe the volunteer on another page is different. So file naming is critical in multimedia. It helps people to understand what they're looking at, and then it organizes your content on your page. So once you have everything sliced, and again, you turn things on and off, like the type would be turned off here. Probably the type would be turned off here as well, because type is often what we call ASCII. It's text, live text. It's not a graphic image. Somebody has actually typed it in and they've applied a specific font to it. What they need from you are patterns, photographs, icons, and things like that. Color, you don't have to, you give them the hexadecimal number. And remember, your hexadecimal number is right here. So when I'm on my toolbar, if I double click, your hexadecimal number is right here. That is the same number that is in that Adobe Color. It's much easier to pick up a copy and paste of one number than it is to copy and paste hue, saturation, and cyan, magenta, yellow, and black, red, green, and blue. You know, nobody wants to copy and paste 3 numbers. They want to pick up one number which represents the whole number. And this is called a hexadecimal number. So now, once you've done all the slicing for this one page, and again, multiple pages in websites are pretty much the same. So you could have a photo document that could be more than one page, and you have layers that are in folders, and you just turn them on, turn them off, turn them on, turn them off, because everything is built in the same column, horizontal, vertical, and all you've changed is the photographs, some of the language, some of the heading, but pretty much most of the things stay the same. The things that stay the same more than ever than anything on a page is the header and the footer. And the header is really everything from the top to the navigational bottom. And the footer is, again, from the bottom all the way up before you get into unique content. So those things pretty much are similar all the way through. So now how do I get this out for the programmer? So this step is under, again, Save for Web, export, Save for Web. And you can zoom out of here. And you'll notice that the layers that I have selected or I have manually made myself are highlighted. The other ones are grayed out. So if I wanted to, I could export just those 2. So I am going to, I'll keep it JPEG. And you want 100% quality as always. And I'm going to go to Save. Now, this has always been here, but you may not have seen it. Or probably it may not be up if there's no slices. So here is images only. Here's HTML, images only, or HTML only. Now, the only problem with their HTML is that they work with tables, and tables are pretty outdated today. So it would be nice if they didn't do tables. They haven't figured out a way how to do that yet. But the point to be made, what you need in most cases is just images only. So images only, and default settings, you can just leave it. And now you can decide, do you want all the slices? Because remember, whenever you make one slice, everything around that slice is a slice. So if you only want the two that we did, then you would say selected. And you can tell it's selected because the bright blue is on. So I'm going to show you all the slices so you can see what this is. So basically, the terminology, the technical part of slices is that it is a cropping tool that basically crops multiple images in one document, right? So that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to say all slices. And where am I going? I'm going to the desktop. So I probably would rather create a folder, but let's see if it creates a folder itself. It should. So we'll say save. Okay, so that's done. Let's go check this out. It's in downloads and iCloud or desktop. Was it in desktop? Yes, it was in desktop. IM64, yeah. So you see, I didn't pay attention where I was. Very, very important to do. So yes, it did create a folder for me, which I expected, and I would be very upset if it didn't. And so now you see, here's the image folder. If I double click it, and you should always look at documents like for details. So I want to do view details. So now you can see, I don't think I can enlarge this. No. Now you can see green piece, which is what I labeled it in Photoshop with the slice tool, volunteer here, and here are all the generic ones. Now I probably don't want them, but now you see I would hand that folder over to the programmer with a PSD in there. They like PSDs too. More than likely they should know Photoshop. But this way, if they have that, and this way you've given them all that they need to program those images to be in the place where they need to be. And that's why that tool is so important to be had in Photoshop. Because the last thing you want to be doing, which is what we used to do, is crop, revert, crop, revert, crop, revert. This gives you all the ability to crop multiple pictures, and you can turn layers on, turn layers off, you know, and do literally 100 slices, as long as they don't overlap each other. That's the important part. And so in folders, you don't really put slices into folders. So you would really have to export one batch and then have another one. That's something, the artboard is brand new. I wonder what they do now with slices in multiple artboards, because that would have different slices. My guess is that every artboard has a unique set of slice tools for each artboard. That's the way it should be. Now, slices exist in Illustrator as well. So if you were doing something that was with type, that was some unique font that could not be programmed, or is maybe a background image or something, you would not do that in Photoshop. You would do it in Illustrator, and then you would use a slice tool in Illustrator and give them probably a ping, which would make the paper color transparent so they could put it on the background of that. There is I have a few more minutes unless someone has some questions. So, yes, Louis?
No, it's actually me, Matthew.
Matthew, hey.
I'm having trouble uploading hold on. I'm having trouble uploading the new screen recording onto WordPress.
You mean screen recording?
Well, I tried to figure out. I looked up online how do I screen share on a MacBook Pro, and it said I had to use QuickTime Player.
Yeah, that's a Mac program. So, but Matthew, what are you recording me?
No. The website.
The website. Right. Well, are you on a PC or a Mac?
Mac.
Okay. So you can do, on a Mac, you can do Command 4, and it lets you crop.
All right.
And then Command 3 does the whole screen.
Okay.
Now, if you do want to do video, like if the video, if things are moving and all that kind of stuff, and you want to keep it to be time-based, that is QuickTime Pro.
All right.
And yeah, that's what I always use. So I got very confused when I moved over to my a PC. I can't remember what I'm using now, or it's not working for me or something. I'll get back to you on that. I was already entrenched in some other issue with PC. But yeah, it's not always that easy, but QuickTime does the job really nicely.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thanks.
So what I wanted to show you, this site is a very old site. Let's see if it's still there. But it's very interesting because it became outdated and now it's actually back. So I'm gonna, I have 5 minutes and I just want to talk about this because this is really a very good inspiration as well. So in the very beginning of web design, all the illustrators and graphic designers were so excited about web. And then web shifted to be all text like this is, right? Well, that didn't last very long. So now we're going all back to simplicity and images and video and moving things that move. So let me just show you this. So this is actually a social media site for web designers. The content of this page is the same content for everything. So it shows you how important design is to a website. So let me show you about this. So view designs here. Oh, I don't want to see that. That's the code. I want to see. Let me find it here. You may modify to see all of them. Well, I'll just click this and we'll get to it. Okay. And so in other words, this information, there's a way to see all of them. I just want to see, you can tell how bad this is, right? I can't even find what I want to see, all of them. It should say all designs. View, all designs, submission, common, submit designs, view designs. Okay, no, I don't want to see view designs. Usually it says view all designs. Oh, here we are. Wake up, huh? They changed it on me. It used to be down here. Here we go. Ah, they changed it. So now they just have you, yeah. Oh, okay. Welcome to user design interface. I see what so they're giving it to us right here. So here we go. You ready? So it's just super cool, and I love it because it helps me to help you how to design a web page. So this style is back. It is back and it's trending. Let me get a little bigger on this. This is the one I use all the time because it really helps me to break apart how web designs are built. So you see how the bottom is not moving? That is actually a footer. Now, not in the case that we see footers, but in a design way. So web design has layers, just like Photoshop. So if we were slicing, I would turn off all of this and I would export just this image as a ping, and then this way they would lay it on top. It's called a Z-plane in web programming. And it would just be on the front and everything slides behind it. Now all of this up here, this right here, is actually a background tile. And it's somewhat vertical. You can almost see a little bit of the tiling that's going on. Right around here, let me zoom out. Right here, there's a little white line going down. And so that's repeating. You can even see it, you see how this repeats on there? There's a little bit of a pattern. And then this is above that background, and then this is above this background. So you can do layers in web design. So let's go back to another one. Let me zoom out. So very simple. They don't let you do the way we used to do it, where they would give you thumbnails. So let me try to advance it. Interesting enough, it's still chronological in years. So I could keep, here's a business style. That's really boring. And Zen Morning. So the point to be made is that every page has the exact information, but it's just laid out differently. And you have generated the designs and the graphics, and that is what the programmer has to do.